Visit tcgcastle.com and get 5% discount on your purchase with TCG Center 5 code. Send us your bulk in exchange for Evolution Booster Box. Visit CCG Castle or check video description to learn more. How's it going, guys? Welcome back to Pokemon TCG Center. In today's video, we'll be looking at the deck profile for the standard format. And this is actually a Giratina, Salamence, and Xerneas BREAK deck. So, very interesting attackers in this build, to be honest. And of course, very, very powerful Salamence-EX with 180 HP Dragon type with the Beastly Fang. For 5 energy and double covers energy, you can strike for 10 plus, 50 more for each of your opponent Pokemon EX. So let's say our opponent have 3 EXs in play, we can go for 160, and with the Fighting Fairy Belt for 170, which is just so powerful, to be honest. On the other side, we can also use Giratina's Chaos Wheel and strike our opponent for 100, prevent him from being able to attach special energies, tool cards, and also stuff like Stadium. Also with the Giratina, we can block Mega Evolutions as long as our opponent does not have Hex Maniac or Garbodor around to shut down Giratina ability. And of course, 4 copies of Geomancy Xerneas, so we can actually have those Fairy energies accelerate very quick. And of course, 2 copies of Xerneas BREAK, so you can have it live stream, who can also strike for 20 times the 20 for each energy attached to all of our Pokemon in play. Which means if we have 9 energies, we can easily go for 180 with Xerneas BREAK. And the good thing is it's also resistance minus 20 on those popular darkness decks, so we can also have that resistance. So it's even easier to play with the Xerneas BREAK against those Evoltals and Fright Night Evoltals. So 13 Pokemon, 35 trainer cards, and 12 energies. As you can see in this list, also 1 Hoopa-EX is here just for that Scandering, I guess, so we can pull, set up turn 1 if we really want and need. Of course, for those extra Max Elixirs and stuff like that, and of course to Shaymin-EX for that setup, so we can draw cards until we have 6 in our hand. So that's pretty much it. The main strategy is going to be to start with the Xerneas turn 1, use Geomancy, turn 2, power up one of these 2 attackers, either way Giratina or Salamence, and be able to strike your opponent pretty much with the Chaos Wheel or with the Beastly Fang, depend on our opponent bench. And later in game, we can just use those advantages of XP shares, so you can have more energies for that live stream and finish maybe the game exchanging 1 prize for maybe 2 with the Xerneas BREAK. So I also decided to add 2 copies of Fairy Drop because it's going to be a very good card, because I can heal 50 damage from one of my Pokemon that has any Fairy energy attached to it. Somehow I feel this can also help a lot in those matchups versus those Fright Night Evoltals, because at this moment this deck is very popular, and to be able to counter it and somehow this is definitely very important. But also it can help you against any other deck. I mean, you can heal from nowhere 2 times for 50 damage, and even with the Center Lady you can heal 160 damage in 1 turn, which is just ridiculous. But even against Greninja Breaks, John Water Shuriken, sometimes a Fairy Drop can help a lot. On the other side, 4 copies of Max Elixir. Since I have only 8 energies, basic, well, somehow it's probably not going to be that often. But as I mentioned, if we can have turn 2 so many energies in play, we can maybe even attack with the Xerneas BREAK for that live stream. 1 copy of Special Charge, so I can reshuffle back 2 double dragon energies from my Disco Pile into my deck. 1 copy of Super Rod, of course, I can recycle any kind of the Pokemon that I need and any energy. Then 3 copies of Trainers Mails. In addition to that, only 4 copies of Ultra Ball for the Pokemon search. Pretty much with the Ultra Ball you can discard 2 cards from your hand, pretty much search your deck turn 1 for the Hoopa-EX, and then you can put 1 Giratina, 1 Salamence, 1 Shaymin-EX, and then you can still have space for 1 more Xerneas on the bench. Speakingly, if you have already 1 Xerneas in the active front, that should probably be just a perfect start. 4 copies of Seeker, of course, as the main card in this deck, because we really want to use advantage taking some other supporter cards from the list that we have. And then we are moving on to the supporter list. Pretty much very standard support list. 1 copy of Hex Maniac, so we can have that advantage shutting down those Greninja breaks John Water Shurikens, but any other ability which is very powerful. One copy of Lysandre, so we can switch one of our opponent benched Pokemon with his active Pokemon. Very important, would love to have 2 of them, but unfortunately can't find space for 2. 2 copies of N. You know, each player will shuffle his or her hand in his or her deck, then each player will draw a number of cards remaining to his prize cards. Very, very good card, especially in the late game where you can put your opponent down to 1 or 2 cards and get advantage against him. I decided also to go with 1 copy of Olympia, even I have 2 copies of Fairy Gardens for the free treat, because, you know, sometimes Olympia can help because you can have that switch and you can heal also 30 damage from one of your Pokemon. In theory, with Olympia and Fairy Garden, we can heal 8 damage counters and also have free switch. I mean, Salamence can retreat for just 2 energies, Giratina unfortunately for 3, but if we have Fairy Garden in play, we can also use advantage retreating for free. But somehow I feel that just, you know, Olympia can help sometimes a lot. I also decided to go with 1 copy of Pokemon Center Lady, just because I can heal 60 damage in all special conditions from 1 Pokemon in play. Once again, as I mentioned it, Center Lady can give you a huge advantage against those boring decks like a Friday Night Evil, because they can easily spread 60 damage to your bench, to your benched EX Pokemon. And then, of course, main draft support is going to be Professor Sycamore, 4 of them. Discard your hand, draft 7 cards. No need to talk too much about that. As I mentioned it earlier, Stadium Choice, 2 Fairy Gardens, because I'm running just, you know, double Dragon Energies and Fairy Energies, and pretty much each of my Pokemon will have Fairy Energy attached to it for a treat. So I think Fairy Garden is very, very good option. And of course, 2 copies of XP Share as a pretty good tech, to be honest here, just because it makes a lot of sense, just because I'm running those Xerneas breaks, and they actually need to have as many energies in play to be able to strike for as many damage as they can. So with the XP Share attached to one of my Pokemon, after my opponent knock out my active Pokemon, I can just, you know, put 1 energy from that active Pokemon to the Pokemon that have XP Share attached to it. Let's say our opponent managed to knock out my active Xerneas Break with 2 energies. If I have 2 XP Shares on my bench, I can keep all these 2 energies instead of discarding them. I mean, I can keep them, I can discard them. It will depend on the situation, will I need them or not. Also, 2 copies of Fighting Fury Belt, so my Giratina and Salamence can have extra 40 HP and extra 10 damage. Very important, because with the Chaos Wheel you can go for 110 and 1 hit knock your opponent's Shaymin-EX, but also striking twice with the Chaos Wheel for 110 will be enough to knock out almost every EX with the Fighting Fury Belt, except for the Zygarde and Whaler, of course. 4 copies of Double Dragon Energies as a energies, and 8 Fairy Energies. Of course, we need to have some Fairy Energies to power up Geomancy to be able to use Max Elixirs and take advantage of that. I mean, I just decided to build as balanced list as I can. Of course, you can try to build maybe more speed version of the deck, cutting maybe those Fairy Drops and Pokemon Center Lady in order to add 1 more Trainers Mail and 2 more Fairy Energies. You can maybe try to build more control deck, also discarding, let's say, a Center Lady, maybe even cutting 1 Trainers Mail, adding 2 copies of Enhanced Hammer, so you can even have more control against your opponent energies in play and stuff like that. It will depend on your local meta, I should definitely say that. There are so many different options that you can actually build with this deck around, maybe even remove 1 Xerneas so you can have 3 instead of the 4. But to be honest, the main focus is to start with the Xerneas Geomancy and then later turn to retreat to one of our main attackers, which are going to be Giratina and Salamence, depending on our opponent game strategy, so we can actually pretty much go for that turn 2 knockout against his heavy HP EX if he has so many EXs in play, or pretty much control the game with the Chaos Wheel and preventing him from being able to play Special Energies, tools, and stadiums and stuff like that. So I hope you guys enjoy watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more future videos. Let me know what you think about this deck in the comments below. Unfortunately, I'm not in position to test this deck yet, because unfortunately I still don't have Salamence-EX. I'm definitely looking forward to get 2 of these. Once I manage to get 2 of these, I should definitely play with this deck so you can see it in the action. But in meantime, if you have Salamence and all these cards here, you should definitely try to build this deck by your own and test it, because I'm 100% positive that this deck will work and it will also be very good against current meta. So once again guys, thanks for watching, have a nice day, see you in the next video, goodbye.